Welcome to the first ever IndieWhat. My name's Keenan. I'll be telling you what you need to know about the indie title Monster Loves You. Monster Loves You is a casual indie game available on Steam for Windows only at this moment in time. It also fits under the categories of an RPG and a simulation. The simulation bit confuses me because how do you simulate something that isn't real? Well, the creators of Monster Loves You decided to pursue this by writing a storybook. It's your job as the player to complete the story of a monster from birth in the spawning bats to adolescence and adulthood and beyond. The entire game is driven by reading a scenario and picking an option with two ideas in mind. First of all, you could pick the choice that you as a person are more naturally drawn to and see where your story ends up. However, there are 12 known endings that are presented to you in the form of badges at the main screen. These also correspond to the 12 Steam achievements that you can earn, so I would recommend to play the first time naturally and then pursue the various endings individually. To give a brief synopsis of Monster Loves You, like I mentioned previously, you start your adventure in a pool of slime called the spawning bats. Immediately you are faced with decisions that will drive the personality of your monster. Your personality is measured by 6 different attributes. The choices you make will affect bravery, cleverness, ferocity, honesty, and kindness. And certain options in your adventure will require you to be at a certain level of one of these stats to pursue it. The time in this stage is brief and you quickly leave the spawning bats to the life of an adolescent monster. Upon adolescence, and especially the adult stages, you are also trying to raise your respect level with your fellow monsters by various impressive tasks or through sheer intimidation. From this point, your time in each phase of life is limited by a certain amount of days. Once you reach 0 days left, you are presented with a scenario that will progress you to the next stage of life. Ultimately, at the end of adulthood, you have to make a hard choice for the life of your monster, but I'll leave the details of that out, so if you decide to pick this guy up, there's still a bit for you to discover on your own. And this brings me to my impression of Monster Loves You. Overall, there is a little bit left to be desired. When I picked up this game, I was under the impression that as I made choices for my monster, its appearance would alter as well. Sadly, this isn't the case. From what I've seen, you are simply generated some multi-limbed, freaky-looking creature that has no tie to the decisions you make. So it's neat that you control the personality of your monster, but a personalized one would have been much cooler. Also, there is very little gameplay and very little animation. These kind of go hand in hand. There are no mini-games, and the game can seem a bit dry. Most people's expectations of a video game isn't simply reading and then choosing preset options, which leads to that, while the graphic style is nice and soft to look at, it's all still frames. The only thing that actually moves in the game is the panning of scenarios and choices onto the screen, which also covers up the small amount of graphics that Monster Loves You has. Still, the game is simple and there isn't a fear of losing. Where the story takes you, if you put enough attention and focus into the situations you read, is still enjoyable. For example, I was once faced with the fairy tale story of Hansel and Gretel. What did I do? I ate them both and pranced back to the village with a full belly and was damn proud of myself too. There are other hints and nods at many other fairy tales, and I'm not sure if I've yet to encounter them all. Another situation that I decided was to kill all the humans, so I boosted my ferocity as high as I could and prepared myself for an all-out human-monster war. But when the time came, I was only given the option to become the monster general, which unfortunately required cleverness. I was one of the most ferocious monsters and could beat any other monster in a fight, but I wasn't all that clever. So I led my fellow monsters in a war and was rewarded with a crushing defeat. All the monsters were dead and it was my fault, and the exact opposite of my intentions. All in all, Monster Loves You still has surprises and it does reward you with a good story. Even though it might take a little determination and time to get there, but a single playthrough only takes about an hour to an hour and a half. So it's a good game for one of those unmotivated days where you just don't feel like doing much but kicking back and seeing what trouble you can get a monster and a whole village of monsters into. With all things considered, Monster Loves You is about a 3 out of 5, just average. It has some quirks, some humor, its positives, and its negatives. Sadly, it's priced at $9.99 on Steam, which seems a little bit lofty for what it has to offer. I definitely recommend picking it up on sale unless you're incredibly interested in it. That's all I have for this go-around. Catch me next time where I'll be reviewing the indie title Sang-Froid Tales of Werewolves Part 1. Also feel free to check out the channel for the rest of our videos if the indie genre isn't quite your thing. So until next time, I'm out.